We're going to Colt. No, we're going to Culver's after this. All right.
What?
It's my anniversary. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh.
Today is?
That was such a high low for me just then.
Yeah. Thanks, Ty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Every Dad Podcast. We are super excited that you have tuned in and are joining us for this episode. And, man, we're going to have a really good time tonight. But before we jump in, we have our guest, Gary Chestnut. He's rocking his Lynn Haven hat tonight. What's the name of your Lynn Haven team?
We're the Hammerheads. We've
Let's
been
go.
the Hammerheads
Hammerheads.
since probably our last season of T-ball. They became the Hammerheads.
Who chose Hammerheads?
Partially me and partially my son Zane.
Okay.
And I didn't give a lot of options. I'm like, hey, here's this Hammerheads, and then here's something just silly, princesses or something. He's like, oh, Hammerheads. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Is it a co-ed team? Is it an all-boys team? What is it?
We're all boys.
Okay.
And 10U baseball.
10U.
Yeah. It's starting to become real baseball
Is
now.
it U10 or 10U? That's a big difference I found out. No, seriously, they have in soccer they do U first, and that means that when you turn the age that's next to the U, you can't play that anymore. So like U6,
Soccer
it's
doesn't do
4
it.
it's
They
4
just
and 5 year
do
olds.
everything
But
backwards. Who would ever play
6U
soccer?
is
the
4,
world
5, and
sport.
6 year olds. You see what I'm saying?
I would have had to have learned
do
that
we
as
do
well.
everything
That's very
backwards?
confusing. But we are 10U.
So you're 10U.
Yeah.
All right. So you got 10-year-olds on your team.
We do.
That's what
Well,
it is.
I don't think we do. We're brand new to 10U.
So you guys don't
And we
win a
moved
lot,
up
or you
early,
do win a
so-
lot?
Huh?
So y'all are young. Y'all are
We were
building.
very young.
Okay. That's what my basketball team was. They were building this year. They only made it the first round of
Rebuild
the
year.
playoffs. This is a
My
rebuild.
9U team's
A rebuild
rebuilding.
year for us.
We've been rebuilding for a few years
Okay.
now. We're getting
There you
there.
go.
Nice.
Building
Okay.
character.
Yes.
You're going to run out of
Humility.
years.
Very good. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Gary, so we got Blake, we got Rob, we got me, I'm Ty, and then we got Gary. So Gary, I've known you for a long time. I don't know, actually, I know you know both of the guys that are here, but just for anyone that may be listening right now that does not know you, and I know that's inconceivable, that someone might not know, to me at least, Gary. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your current life. If you're married, who are you married to? That sort of thing. Maybe your
Okay.
favorite color.
It's got to be blue.
Hammerhead
Favorite?
blue.
No, it's orange actually. I don't know why. I don't ever wear orange either, but it is
Your
my favorite
color is orange.
Yep.
And you don't ever do
I don't wear
anything with
No.
orange.
I don't.
Are you
know why I
sure
like
it's your
orange.
favorite color?
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know, man. All right.
But anyway, yes, I am married. I'm a father of 4 children. My oldest is turning 12 in 2 days, actually. My next son down is 8. My daughter beneath him is 7. And then my youngest, Ezekiel, is 3 years old, or will be 3 years old in August. I had to think about that.
Nice.
Let's go.
Yeah, but I am married. My wife and I will be married for 4 years, June 5th.
Come on.
I'm pretty sure I got that right.
She'll tell you if you don't.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
yes,
that
she
right
will.
now.
Find out.
Yeah, she will.
Hey, Jarrah.
Everybody will hear about that one. Yes, my wife's name's Jarrah. She's amazing. For any of y'all that don't know me, you probably know her.
Yeah.
She'd probably be the one to be on here more than me to see her and have a really long conversation.
Sure.
She loves to talk.
Okay.
She's amazing. She truly is.
For sure.
But yeah,
I can vouch
I work
for that.
I work in construction. I'm a residential contractor. Other than that, man, I'm really involved at Highland Park, working with youth, 11th and 12th grade boys.
Yeah, he does.
I get to be in there with Robbie,
job.
who's amazing. Just the fact that he took me in to be a leader in there, it's very humbling. And as you'll hear with my story here in a little bit, it's extremely humbling.
Yeah. So before we jump into all of that, and you corrected me about some of the details of this, but Robbie, I don't know if you know this or not. We were pretty good.
It's about to be a Gary quiz.
Well, yeah, no,
Okay.
no, we're not going to do a Gary quiz. We don't have time for that. But me and you, we were pretty good athletes, right? I mean, you would say
I was pretty mid. Yeah.
mid.
Yeah.
Me too. Unfortunately, but we're actually sitting. 2 of the 4 of us are national champion winning baseball players.
That's right.
And Robbie, do you have a national championship?
No.
I don't either. So that must
No.
mean that these two over here have national
Well,
champions.
as we did,
I have a state
Chips and-
championship.
Huh?
I have a state championship.
No way.
Yeah.
I won state when I was
Hey.
11.
Let's go.
The other team forfeited. They had
as
to get
we
back.
discussed off screen, the rings aren't real diamonds. So
The
you're
rings
not as far
aren't.
from
That
us as
actually,
you
that
think.
still does blow my mind. That
is
even
insane.
because yours was in Omaha, and still not real diamonds.
What?
Wow. No, yeah. Where were you? Were you in the bathroom or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, they got it from the same place you got your senior class ring. Old Jostens.
Man.
That's crazy. So you played at Chipola, and
I
you
did.
played catcher.
I was a catcher.
Okay.
Correct.
With a cannon.
With an absolute cannon. I'm telling you
And
right
for,
now.
and for those of you who don't know, Chipola is an absolute powerhouse,
Powerhouse.
in the JUCO program.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they would whoop up on a lot of Division
A
I
lot of
teams,
Division ones. I would say that's true for sure. Gary has, and I've played with a lot of good baseball players. Gary, I think you have the strongest arm with the most consistency of anyone that I've ever thrown with.
Well, I appreciate that. That's definitely the thing that got me to college.
Yeah.
It was not my hitting. My hitting was terrible. My
Okay.
coach will tell you today, Jeff Johnson's still there at Chipola. Hey, Jeff. But he'll tell you to this day I was great defensively, had a great arm. He sure didn't hit very well.
Was it the fastball? Was it the curveball?
It
was
was
it
any
all
of
of
them.
it?
It
all
didn't
of
matter,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
I think I was a complete head case. I was always thinking about it when I was up there
Gotcha.
hitting. So.
Okay.
I've always felt like catchers had an advantage because they sit there and they see so many balls thrown from a pitcher. I've never understood
can
how
see
they
that.
can't be the best hitter on the team.
Yeah, I couldn't understand it either.
You're telling me.
You're news to me. That's funny.
Made it even worse.
I love that. So just to jump in real quick, so we had man, how long have you been? I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but you're a deacon at Highland Park here.
I am.
And how long have you been a deacon at the church?
2 years now?
2 years. Man, that's amazing. So I remember the deacon ordination ceremony, and at the very end, they always give us, whoever maybe knows the person, just kind of an opportunity to talk just a little bit about. Just kind of what God's done in that person's life, and just kind of get an opportunity to just encourage and celebrate where God has kind of brought that individual. And so I was blessed enough to be able to do that for you, just because we have known each other for several years, and it's your story to tell. I've always said that. I've felt that way, but tonight. One of the reasons why I wanted you to come on the podcast, number one, I love just talking to you, and I think that you are just a remarkable father, a present father. The way that you lead your wife and the intentionality that you have behind that, and just the way that you're leading by example, in the area of fatherhood. But, and I say but only to say, that this is a story that God gets the credit for. And we've asked you, if you would be maybe vulnerable enough to come on, and you've agreed to do that, just because your story, we talked a little bit about where God has you now, and the journey that He's kind of taken you on. You haven't always been the deacon, the husband, the father, that God has done, a work in you right now. And one of the things that's so common that I hear, everywhere that I go, is kind of a conversation that's centered around alcohol. And so you've got part of your story is, kind of has alcohol, and some alcohol consumption and that sort of thing. And so if you wouldn't mind, man, just tell us a little bit about maybe some of that in your life. How did that get started? And we'll talk, just a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So not exactly what you would think of when someone that gets into alcoholism or just gets deep off into it like that. I mean, I was a straight A student from time I started school until I finished. Never drank. I was what they would have considered, I guess, an all-star athlete in high school, which I was very humbled once I got to college by that, because trust me, in Bonifay, you're a lot better than you are once you step into college with those guys from all over the country and other countries. But anyway, so baseball played a huge part into me beginning to consume alcohol or substances in general. I think I drank like one time in high school. Me and my
Wow.
dad had an argument one night. He said some choice words to me, and I left that night. My best friend and I and another guy drove off somewhere, and I mean, we're underage. Sat there and betted on who could go in there and get it. Finally, the youngest looking one went in there and got like a 6-pack or something, but we all drank our 2 Smirnoffs that night and thought we were something. But from then on, it wasn't really a struggle.
Sure.
Like, it wasn't anything that I had a problem with. And it started out as something just to relax,
Yeah.
forget about what's going on. And then many times after that, it was just to have fun. Got into leave high school, graduate, going off to college, moving out on my own, living in an apartment. For whatever reason, I got stuck with older roommates. I was very sheltered growing up. I mean, I was around some stuff, but I was fairly sheltered. And these guys like to party. They knew how to party. And they sort of... I didn't have a strong relationship with Christ at that point in my life. So it led to... I went to party too. Like, I wanted to fit in.
Sure.
I wanted to be like these guys that came from these really big other colleges to come play with us, and I just wanted to fit in and would start drinking with them. And it was never really an issue up to the point of me turning 21. Like, there was always that little bit of a wall there that kept me away from things because I couldn't just walk in anywhere and make it happen. I couldn't just get the alcohol. And it would be an on and off again thing. The biggest thing that led into problems was my own pride and not having any humility. And I said earlier that baseball played a big part into that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So I left high school, being on cloud 9, getting a scholarship to go play in college, you know. People are praising me, talking about how good I am. And after a while, I began to believe it too. Went freshman year, played at actually Northwest Florida State College. They're national champions here in the last 3 or 4 years, I think. Went there my freshman year on scholarship. Lost my scholarship at the end of that year. And then I moved to Chipola, which I got a scholarship. But at the end of my season at Chipola, like, I'm expecting to start, and I was very prideful. So when I get there and I'm not starting, I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't have any humility. I was extremely prideful. So it was, okay, well, these guys, my freshman year, they taught me something I can do, like go out and party. So I would drink here and there, but then still at the same time, I knew I had to be able to function. Hang on. Dry mouth. I knew I still had to be able to function on a daily basis at practice. You had practice every day or you had games. I had to be able to function, so I didn't take it to an extreme. When baseball ended, like, I very much so expected to go on and play somewhere else. Nobody was knocking at the door. Nobody was there. And I had built my whole persona around and who I was around the game of baseball. So when I would run into people in Bonifay or anywhere else that I may know, they would say, "Hey, man, how's baseball going?" Generally, I would have something to tell them, but once it ended, I didn't know what to say anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. Now, I had been saved at a younger age in high school at a summer camp. However, I was never discipled after that. I was never led into understanding what to do next
Sure.
or anything like that. It was a great thing for a summer, and then it just sort of got put to the wayside. I was like an infant for a really long time. But when baseball ended, I found myself really lost, not knowing what to do. So I sort of went into became a hermit, went into hiding, moved from Bonifay here to Bay County.
Big city of Panama City.
Yeah,
huh?
big city of Panama City. Me and my best friend. It's like, if you move an hour away, you won't know anybody there.
Except everyone then moves here to work.
Yeah.
And
Right.
There's probably a lot of them remember me more now than I do of them. But so, I mean, and it just sort of, we lived together, and every night it was, let's go do something.
Sure.
Let's go do something. There's no lack of a party scene in Panama City Beach. So we'd go do those things. And, I mean, so I don't know. Do you want to ask me any other questions? Because I can answer all.
Yeah. No, that's good. I appreciate that. So specifically with this being an Every Dad, podcast. So that mentality, it sounds like baseball was kind of your identity. You kind of lost some of that. You would say that you were a Christian, but not living that way. And so you brought, and this is kind of what I want to focus on. You brought that habit of maybe drinking when you were stressful, or drinking, to try and cope with something. You brought that into marriage, and you brought that into fatherhood. And again, the only reason why I bring it up that way is because of what God has done in your life through that. And we want to get to that in just a second. But walk us through, a little bit of that. How long was that, a part of your maybe your everyday lifestyle? Was that something, as a father, as a husband, talk to us about some of that stuff.
Okay. So now my ex-wife, we actually met in all of this dysfunction. Neither of us were just in love with Christ, chasing after Christ during this time. We met at a job. We worked together. A lot of dysfunction in the relationship from the very beginning. And a lot of that was on me as a man, and going and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, and the alcohol and all those different things. I always say that just one drink is all it takes for your inhibitions to be dropped. And generally mine was more than one drink. So even with all the dysfunction, she said yes to marrying me. I asked her to marry me. Not a year into us dating. So we got married pretty quickly. Had a son right off the get-go. My oldest son, Aiden, who's amazing. But in his first few years, the drinking sort of continued. I was never physically abusive or anything like that. But I wouldn't have called myself a present dad. Sure. Like, it was me figuring out, like, if we're going to do something as a family, or if we're going to go somewhere, like, am I going to be able to drink where we're going?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to have a drink? Now, I'm not going to say I was so bad off that if I didn't have one, like, I would go into withdrawals or anything. Sure. But it was part of my lifestyle. That was what I was going to do. I'd go to work. I'd get off of work. I'd drink. And I mean, I guess I would have called myself a functional alcoholic.
Sure.
Most of the time. Of course, a lot of times it'll lead into not being functional. Yeah. The dysfunction, which is somewhere that you'd seen me before.
Sure.
But yeah, my son in that time, I mean, I don't know that he would have missed a whole lot of me. Sure. Like, if I wasn't around. Mm-hmm. Just because I wasn't present. I wasn't doing things with him. Yeah. I wasn't having real conversations with him and things like that.
How long did that last? And then at what point and when did that switch get flipped? When was there a realization like, man, something's got to change? And then what mechanisms were in place to allow you the ability to kind of get out of that rut?
Yeah.
It sounds like you were in.
Yeah, so I would love to sit here and tell you that, man, I saw this look on my kid's face one day and I just decided to change. But that wasn't what happened. And oftentimes in my life, that wasn't how I dealt with issues. It generally came down to things got so bad. And my issues were brought to light. that I had no other way of dealing with it anymore but to face it, right? So it was probably, let's see, let me think about it for a minute. I think my son was 5 when the final time of me really drinking a lot happened. And found myself behind, well, I didn't find myself, but Ty actually was there. I got a call to come see me, and another guy was there that's a mentor of mine and a good friend and family. But found me just passed out behind the steering wheel. I was passed out. Ambulance had to come and get me, and it was a pretty big realization of the damage I had caused to relationships my whole life when the only person at the hospital was my dad. Like,
Wow.
nobody else was there. My phone, I didn't have any missed calls. Wasn't nobody calling to check on me. It was just my dad.
And you probably had plenty of friends at that time too.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
But maybe not the kind that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I became great at hiding this. Like, not everybody in my life knew about this dysfunction. Like, I knew it wasn't right, so I became really good at hiding it. And I just didn't let other people in. So when this happened, and I realized that a change had to be made. And a part of that realization was that family member, mentor, coming to my door one day, and actually did it multiple days. I thank God for him daily because, like, first couple times I wouldn't even answer the door. I just stayed at the house, and he kept coming. I know I got the beard and all, but I get emotional. So hang in there with me.
You do look like you're incapable of tears just because of how manly your beard is.
No,
but
no.
I see it.
But so he came to my door, man. He took me out to his truck, and we sat there. And I've actually told this story to some guys in the youth a couple times. He showed me what a true love of Christ looked like. Like, a lot of us get it from a parent. You get that unconditional love, but you expect it.
Yeah.
You expect it from a parent. This was a guy that nobody would have blamed him if he'd have walked away. Not one bit. Like, he didn't have any reason to do what he was doing other than just the love of Christ, man. And he walked out. He walked out a path with me. We went to a thing called Mew here in Bay County. Shout out to Rick.
Big shout out.
Yeah, he's awesome. If you guys ever looking for somewhere to go see him. But this guy walked this out with me. He would go there with me to be comfortable. And went there for, I don't know, a year or so. And I'm not going to say, like, when I started that, things got perfect. They didn't. I mean, things were hard. It was hard. I had created these pathways in my life of how to cope with stuff.
Yeah.
And that would be like what I would first want to jump back to. So with that said, things got hard. Like, in this time, I'm going to Mew. I'm doing these things. Like, my ex-wife now decided she began talking about divorce. So I look back at it now, and I'm like, would I want her to be married to me? No. So, of course, I didn't want to be divorced. I grew up in a divorced family. My dad and mom were divorced. I didn't want that for my kids. But ultimately it happened. Okay, it led to divorce. And through all of that, like, it was like one thing after another. I felt like God was. They talk about perseverance and how it builds your faith. So the thing happened where I'm passed out behind the wheel, and that brought light to so many people what was going on in my life. And then my wife came to me talking about she wanted a divorce. So I'm walking that out. Throughout that time, my dad started showing up a lot more. And he'd always been in my life, but we never had a close, tight-knit relationship. But with everything going on, he lived in Bonifay. He would drive down here and see me in Bay County, just show up middle of the day. Like, hey, I just want to check on you. And it was something that I had always wanted in our relationship. And it was just, I mean, he didn't have that growing up. I get it. So he didn't really know how to give me that. Now, he also got saved when I was in my 20s, so that made a huge difference. But he started showing up, being there for me, and just calling all the time, and give me the words of encouragement and the love that I deeply needed at the time. Well, the divorce is going on. Seems like it's a great story. Your dad's there. And then about 3 months into all this, Mom calls me one day and he's sick. Your sister found your dad on the floor. He couldn't get up. Like, he was responsive, but he didn't have any strength to get up. So we go to the hospital. Right off the bat, they put him on a ventilator. And then flew him out to Pensacola. And then the friend of mine I told you about, the mentor, the family member who means so much to me, they were there with me at that hospital for 2 days, I think it was, 48 hours. Sat right by my side the entire time. And ultimately, it came down to me having to make the decision to unplug my dad. They let us know that everything was shutting down. I had to make that decision. Now, I wish I could sit here and tell you that I honored my dad's name ever since then, since he passed. I vowed to never drink again. Well, that was like the first thing I ran to. But I will say that God brought it to light really quickly. In all those situations, I realized that God was faithful.
Yeah. So and you know, I knew there was a really good chance that this conversation would, because it's you being, honest and open about some of the most vulnerable moments in your life, and we appreciate that. And the reason why, we wanted this conversation to take place is just because I think right now, I know how I feel listening to this, but I think this is not just descriptive of your life, but I think that it is prescriptive of maybe the current state that so many men find themselves in, that may or may not have the redemption in it yet, that might be sitting, listening to this somewhere and going, man, I'm still, I'm still in the dark part of what you're describing. And what I'm hearing is, going back to alcohol, and there's so many more things that are, tied into all of this. It's not, I don't want to sit here and say this is all about alcohol, but tying all of this in, it sounds like using something to cope or to escape the realities and the everyday just mess of the broken, fallen world that we live in is never the best option. And it sounds like it kind of left you with this cloud, this inability to have some of those meaningful, vulnerable moments and conversations and things that were so important to, or are so important to what God wants to do in a relationship, whether that be with a dad or whether that be with a wife or whether that be with a child or whatever that is. And by you experiencing the pain and the brokenness of a rock bottom, which is what I would describe that as, through some of the people in your life being able to kind of talk you through in those moments and show you the love of Christ, it allowed you to do what the Bible does describe as the bravest thing, and that is to turn around and to face those sober, and to not cope with anything that this world has to offer, but instead to allow the Holy Spirit in a sober mind and in a sober moment to go back and to create and to restore what the Bible says, those moments that are lost through sin and through coping rather than facing. And so talk to us a little bit as we're wrapping this up here, and this is a longer episode than most, but it's been so good. Talk to us a little bit, maybe now on this side, how long, what are some things that the Lord has shown you on this side of sobriety, on this side of, a new marriage that's focused on God, that's God-centered, trying to live, because again, I get to see this, one of your oldest sons in my student ministry, and so getting to walk with him some and, have some conversations with him and just being able to see, what the Lord's done. Talk to us a little bit about what God has done on this side of sobriety as you're facing that in a whole new light.
Yeah. So, I mean, God is good, first of all. He is so faithful. And it took some time for me to see God's faithfulness in that. So on this side of it, went from divorce. God introduced me to my wife now, Jera, who's truly amazing, and we talk about our redemption story often with one another, which is a whole nother episode talking about that. But our family, the way we do things, I began to realize that just because I didn't have that example didn't give me the right to not be an example.
Wow.
No, that's great.
So, and it's been a learning process for me and my wife, because I mean, neither of us really had that just strong example. We didn't. I mean, people sit around and tell these stories of their hero and how this one person did all these things in loving Christ and taught them how to do it. I don't feel as though I have that so much. I have people who are amazing that took me to church and led me to Christ, but I wasn't around them enough to see the example.
Sure.
And on this side of all those different things, I don't want my kids to have to say that. I don't. I want my daughter to find the right kind of husband one day, and I want to be that example for her. I want my sons to know how to treat their wife one day, how to treat others. I want them to know how to have conversations when things are hard. For me growing up, we didn't have a lot of conversations. Like, I messed up, I got in trouble, that was the end of it.
Sure.
We didn't sit down and have a conversation. How'd that make you feel, bud? Why do you think you did that?
Give me a color to
Yeah.
describe your feeling.
It just that
Red.
wasn't happening. But it brought me to being very intentional.
Yeah.
God pointed out, like, hey, this stuff's not just going to happen. A lot of times we sit by. I can remember when he was younger. It's like I got forever. I mean, I can stop drinking when I want, or I'll do this when at this point or whatever. It just leads day after day. It never happens. But focusing on Christ, it made me realize the things that were missing, not only in my life, but my kids' life from me, my wife's life from me. And now I find myself looking to be intentional in those things. I listen to this podcast as well. I'm humbled to be on here. Crazy to think that anybody would want to hear my story. Yeah. But to hear you guys' stories, it gives me other things like, oh, yeah, you know what? They're right. Maybe sometimes it's not things I've never heard of.
Sure.
But having the conversation about it pushes me to be intentional about doing it. Same thing with the husband and wife class that me and my wife are in now. We're reading the book. Like, I've read it a lot. I've read those different types of things that it says in there a lot that God tells us to do, but just the fact that we're doing it, it leads us to having conversations about it and being intentional about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just trying to be that example for our children and for one another and for anyone else around us. I really do want people to see that when they're in that dysfunction, I know it seems endless. There have been some dark times in mine, and I understand that it seems endless. But through Christ, it is possible, and it requires some obedience. It's not just God, forgive me, take all this away. There's a lot of self-inflicted damage with that type of stuff, hurt relationships and things. But God can restore all of that and give your life purpose.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest thing I would say I've found throughout it all is realizing that purpose that God has for me. And I learn more each and every day. Sort of like being on here right now. Never once expected to be on here. To be a deacon, never once expected to be a deacon. I can remember having a conversation in the truck with somebody. I was like, or a life group leader. I was like, there's no way I could ever sit up there in front of those people and have those conversations. No way. And then asking questions about being a deacon. What does that take? And us reading in God's Word about all the different qualifications of being a deacon. And never something I sought out and never something I ever expected to be asked to do. But here we are.
Yeah.
And all that is God. Every bit of it. It's definitely not me. All I can think about is all my failures. But He has forgiven me of them. And it helps me grow my faith a little more each and every day just to see how faithful He is.
Man, that's good, man. Obedience. I was going to ask you, like, for the person that might be watching this that's kind of still in that valley of decision, maybe they haven't went full in on their relationship with Christ, and you've pointed clearly that was the difference, is truly like putting feet to your faith. And I was going to ask you, but you've answered it. It's obedience. And
yes.
Truly living that out and letting it take hold. Not going to that old coping mechanism anymore.
Absolutely.
And knowing the transformed Gary too, and hearing the story and knowing where you're at now, like that's all you can point to is God and His grace and mercy.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, man.
But your new identity and purpose is a whole lot better than the one you thought you were going to have.
No doubt. Way better.
That's good.
Yeah, I get excited every time I think about it. I'm just wondering, like in anticipation of what does God have next? Like where He's brought me now from where I was. Like a lot of people would think, man, you were on cloud 9. You won a national championship. Man, it didn't. Honestly, I could lose that ring and not be disappointed.
Yeah.
I really could. That's how much that means compared to my relationship with Christ. It doesn't mean anything. There was no purpose in it. And mainly because I wasn't focused on Christ and making it purposeful.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I would always say, it's important to set realistic goals for yourself, and most people had the goal of, winning a national championship as a kid. I never did. I always had the goal of knowing someone that won a national championship, and maybe I've doubled it. So God has just radically done some cool things in my life too. But no, man, thank you. I mean,
Absolutely, man.
thank you for doing, something very difficult, coming in and talking about a very, sensitive topic, a topic that, just it's not easy to talk about,
Right.
and I thank you for doing that. And we'll even say, going first, because I know for sure it's such a prevalent thing that there will be men that are listening to this that can relate to that, or will look up to that and say, man, that is someone that, again, like you said, doesn't have it all figured out. Which even when I hear that, appeals more, because I go, man, that's someone that's being real about the difficulty of the journey. They're not saying, oh, and then I saw a quote, or I saw a look in my son's eyes, and then all of a sudden it was just this light bulb. And, if that moment hasn't happened for me, then I'm just a weak man. No, it's a journey. It takes time. It's difficult. There's going to be failures. There's going to be slip ups. But in that, the accountability, the consistency, and the allowing God to reshape the goal and the dream that I have to one day have, and leave that legacy for my kids is worth any difficulty that I could have. And to hear that story, in your story, and to see some of that, and watch how that's unfolded. Very, very cool. So thank you so much for jumping on. Anybody else got anything? Anybody else want to say some cool stuff?
No, there's going to be some people blessed for hearing that. So thank you to
thank
Echo
you,
Ty.
man.
That was awesome.
I hope so. So Todd texted me talking about it's going to be meaningful tonight, and I was like, that's the reason I'm there. It's not because I like to sit there and talk in front of a lot of people.
That's
yeah,
real.
absolutely.
That's
if somebody ever needs somebody to reach out to,
Yep.
I'm all ears.
For sure. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in, and hopefully this again has blessed somebody. And you're probably going to hear something like this, and maybe you say, "Man, this is I know right now the person or the people that need to hear this." So send it to them, share it with them, and hopefully the Lord can work in their lives the same way that He has in Gary's. And continue to like, subscribe, and continue to follow us. Thank you to our sponsors. I'm not very good at this, but thank you to Sola, to Highland Park, to What's Up Media, to Debo Childs, and to everybody else that jumps in and prays for us and all that good stuff. All right, bye.